Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to fly the Piper Arrow 3. Now this particular aircraft is a payware aircraft from Carenado. You can actually get it on Microsoft Marketplace. The reason I picked this one up is actually kind of a fun story, but I'll tell you that I'm kind of a little way over. For those of you interested in recreating our flight, we're sitting here in southern Chile. This is Puerto Cines Airport. There's a Sierra Charlie Piper Kilo. Let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, when we get inside this aircraft, again, looking around, everything's good. But again, this is not a review. This is a how to fly. So we're going to go ahead and get everything going here. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here, and you're going to need this is really cool little checklist sort of pops up. This is a very Carenado thing to have, and it's really fun in VR too because it's like boing in your face. So the neat thing is we actually have the ability to get external power on this aircraft, which blows my mind just a teeny tiny bit, but that's all right. I'm going to go to the next page. You can actually get this thing ready to taxi at a click of a button, which, oh man, I wish all airplanes had this button. And of course, we have some checklists for things like takeoff as well. I'm not going to be using this checklist. I'm going to be using my own checklist here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because it's just going to block my view. And we're just going to kind of work our way left to right, kind of in a classic sort of fashion here. So coming down here, I'm going to make sure that my fuel tank is set on the right position. You're probably saying, wait, what? Well, I take a look at my clock here. I can see that it's about, let's say about 7 after 11 o'clock in the morning. This is real time, real weather, by the way, in case you're curious. So I'm going to point my fuel selector to the right tank because my minute hand is on the right side. Keep in mind, when we do get to 11:30, we got to switch this over to the left side. If you're a good smart pilot, you'll actually have a little teeny tiny egg timer, and you'll stick it right down here, right magnetically right there, so it's going to set it for 30-minute intervals so you can constantly be changing the tank. So that's good to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go fuel pump, make sure that's off. We don't need that right now. We're going to go and click on the battery master, and we're going to go ahead and click on the alternator. We're going to get about 1,000 angry letters and emails and all sorts of fun things that are all going to come fire up. Yes, an airplane sends you email. No, it doesn't. We're going to confirm that our landing gear lever is in the down position. That's very, very, very important for us. We're going to make sure we have our green lights. We're going to make sure our parking brake is set, which I can see we're set there. Flaps, I'm going to leave alone for now. Trim, I'm going to leave alone for now. Avionics, I'm going to leave off for now. Now, this aircraft is a little old school, and it's also a little new school as well because it uses a fuel injectors instead of carburetors, which is awesome. Bad news, though. That means we have to prime using the fancy method. So I'm going to go ahead and take my mixture control lever. I'm going to push this all the way forward. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my fuel pump. Now notice my amps immediately started loading, and also my fuel pressure is going to come up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my throttle all the way forward and pull it all the way back and shut my fuel pump off. That's it. The engine is now primed and ready to start. That's all you had to do. It's nothing fancy. So now the way we would start this aircraft, again, depending on the day, of course, I'm going to go ahead and actually pull the mixture control out. I'm going to crack the throttle a teeny bit. And what you would do is you'd sit here and sit on the key, hold the key, and then jam the thing forward to start as soon as the engine starts to catch. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to the start position. I'm going to look around. Before I do that, though, of course, I'm going to go ahead and flip on let everybody know I'm about to start the engine light. We can see we have our strobe light right there. We can see we have our fin strobe. This is our beacon light. This is our side lights as well. We're going to turn on just the beacon light on the tail there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crank this thing until we get about 700 RPM and then turn the fuel on. And it should start catching, and fuel comes on, and we get a nice, smooth start. I'm going to go ahead and bring my RPM up to about 1,000 or so. Again, we're not looking for anything too crazy here. We just want to get it going just a little bit. All right, yeah, that'll do it. All right, sweet. Now we can start turning on the other systems. I'm going to go ahead and fire up my avionics master, which is the radio master right here. You've got the handy-dandy autopilot master right here. Don't turn this on, because if you do, the airplane will try to flip on its automatic pilot. Now, you're probably sitting here going, where's the autopilot? It's this magic box right here. We'll take a look at that once we get a little higher. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, lovely. I'll set that to VFR mode. Since we're down here in Chile, we're going to have a slightly different identification. Okay, let's go ahead and get our avionics set up for our little flight here as our engine slowly starts warming up. Again, I want to be about 1,000 RPM. Give it a few extra pressure there. Go pop myself over. I got everything preloaded in here. Again, this is a GPS 500. You can see I have my nav display here. I'm going to leave this bottom one looking like this. But what I am going to do is I'm going to press the CDI button. If you don't click that button and set this to GPS, you will not get navigational information on your HSI, which is going to be pretty important for us for our flight here. Go ahead and take a quick look around, make sure everything looks clear. Again, I'm just going to turn us around. This is a very unscientific takeoff. This is the parking area, and this is the runway. Again, this is a kind of neat spot in the world to fly if you haven't done so. Go ahead and stick my head in the comfortable position. I'm going to go ahead and disengage my parking brake. Go ahead and give myself just a little tiny bit of gas here. It does not take much to get this thing going. There we go. You can hear the governor kind of catch that propeller. Now, watch how easy this takeoff is. I'm going to approach. During takeoff, of course, one thing we want to do is we want to go through the takeoff checklist, but we'll hit that in just a second. I'm just going to kind of line myself up at the runway here. We are facing the wind nicely, and that's all there is to it as far as that part of the preparations go. Go ahead and hold my brakes here. I'm going to stop this thing out. So normally when you run up an aircraft with a constant speed propeller, there's a couple different pieces that we're going to want to do. We're going to bring our RPM all the way up to 2,000 RPM. Give it just enough thrust. That was too much there. Every aircraft's kind of got a different sort of play here. We're just going to check to make sure everything works okay. Nice. We'll start with doing our magneto check. We'll swing this to the left. We should lose a couple RPM. Good. We'll swing it back to both. All right, back to 2,000. We'll swing it to the right. Comes down a little bit, and we're back to both. Delightful. Now what we're going to do is we're going to exercise our handy-dandy blue lever. This is our RPM lever. I'm going to pull this back. I expect this to come down. Again, this isn't World War II. You don't have to sit here revving this thing, but you just give it a quick little crank to make sure it runs. I guess I'm being pulled over right here. Go ahead and pull the throttle all the way to 0. See if the engine cuts out on you. Again, this is a nice modern fuel-injected aircraft. I'm not too worried about it. And our run-up is complete. Let's go ahead and do our pre-takeoff checklists. Let's come down here. Pop over to this one, pre-takeoff. We want to make sure we're on the correct one, which we are. Fuel pump gets turned on, engine gauges, alternate air is closed. Mixture set, propeller set, fasten safety belt, flaps set. We want to do 1 notch of flaps for takeoff, so we're just going to pull that back a little tiny bit. Our trim tab is set. Again, we should be pretty close to the takeoff position. I'm looking real quickly here. I'm going to stick my head down here. Look straight down. Takeoff is going to be, go ahead and crank this sucker. Right there is going to be the takeoff position. Looks good. We're going to make sure doors are closed and air conditioner is off. Yeah, we got an air conditioner on this thing. Nice. All right, we're ready to go. Again, like I said, I'm being pulled over apparently. I wonder why. All right, takeoff in this thing is super duper simple. We're going to make sure we're at full RPM. I'm just going to smoothly press the throttle forward. And off we go. I did not necessarily say this was a high performance aircraft, did I? All right, let's get this thing going. Ah, what a not so lovely day to be flying. Again, this is the southern hemisphere. For us, we're in the spring, so these folks are just heading into the fall. Whoop, I'm getting a little bit of a lift there. Oh, come on, flaps. I guess when they meant takeoff trim, they meant no takeoff trim. All right, we're airborne. Now we want to hold off on the flaps for just a moment because we want to get up to our climb speed, which is going to be right around 80 knots. Bring myself a little bit to the right here. Bring up that notch of flaps. I'm going to get just a little bit of altitude underneath us before we go reaching for that gear handle. Again, the moment you slap that gear handle, you're busted. All right, just a little bit more altitude underneath us. I'm going to have at least something I can turn around into. Okay, nice. Bring up the landing gear. We're going to get a big angry red light. I love that. It says landing gear unsafe. Landing gear unsafe. Your landing gear unsafe. And we're going to go ahead and nose over a little tiny bit, and we're going to get ourselves up to about 84 knots or so. All right. Nose down. This thing, apparently your takeoff trim on this is not what they meant, but that's all right. Now I start climbing. Now, once we do get this thing climbing, we're going to go ahead and reduce our RPM a teeny tiny bit. Right now, we're at maximum RPM. We want to get this thing down to a slightly more comfortable climb RPM of 2,500. Again, now this is the world's most sensitive propeller control, so you're really going to have to sit there working it very gently to get it close to 25. Doing about 80 knots, which is going to be more than enough as far as climbing speed goes. We don't want to climb too steep, obviously, because then we're going to overheat. We don't want to climb too shallow, otherwise it's going to take us a lifetime to actually get to our altitude. All right, and now we are on our way. I'm going to go take a nice gentle turn left. And that should be pretty good. The trim on this thing is really, really fast. Whereas all the aircraft I usually fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the trim is not terribly fast. This is like, what is going on trim as far as how fast it acts. But you'll get the hang of it. All right, looks pretty good, looks pretty good, looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and flip on the automatic pilot. Gives us another thunk. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to switch on to navigation mode. So now there's a couple different ways we can use this particular automatic pilot. Notice there's no flight level change button on here, which is, sad. Another thing to notice is the fact that our HSI does not indicate our direction where actually you need to point the plane. This is a little unique. If you want to actually get that information, you're going to have to come over here and take a look at what the desired track is. You have to actually manually put it in here in order to be accurate. So in this case, our desired track is 300. Whoa! I'll get it. There we go. So our desired track here is now correctly synchronized. Again, that's just sort of an old school quirk. All right, we're cruising up pretty nicely here. We have plenty of fuel. It is not a terribly hot day outside. I'm going to go ahead and flip off the fuel pump. We just don't need it. And we're going to do a little bit of cloud penetration here. There's a very, very angry, serious-looking mountain basically directly over our nose there. So we're going to have to continue climbing up through it. Now, if we wanted a little more control over our vertical speed, there is a vertical speed control built into the automatic pilot here. So, for example, let me say I want to climb at 700 feet per minute. I can come over here and set this to +7. and it will hold us at 700 feet per minute. Now, of course, it's going to have to find the magical speed that gets us 700 feet per minute, which, no surprise, is going to be right around the desired 84 knots, which is what we want anyway. All right, we're just going to go ahead and start climbing up and enjoying our flight. By the way, don't click here. If you do, you'll destroy the airplane. I know you're going, wait, what? This is a window, and you can't open it during flight. Let me just put it to you that way. All right, let's go ahead and make sure everything else is looking okay. My pitch is looking pretty solid here. My flaps are in the up position. Take a look at my fuel. It is 17 minutes after, so we should be in the right fuel tank. We are in the right fuel tank. I've got a pretty good amount of fuel in the right fuel tank. No, I did not burn that much fuel. It's just the way that the needle spins. Don't worry, in the real plane, this needle will go whoa as you start to climb also. Let's go take a look at the rest of our engine gauges during a climb here. Alternator is clearly working. If it was not working, if I click this switch, this would indicate 0. Oil pressure is well into the green. Oil temperature is a little hot. Notice we do not have a cylinder head temperature gauge in this aircraft, so when we do go ahead and start setting up our mixture, we have to be careful. One thing I will do, though, is I'm just taking a look around real quick. We do have our trim, but the trim is set. Okay, good. Okay, that's everything that I was hoping it would be. Awesome. Go ahead and put that back. I wouldn't mind turning on my lights a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to see here. You have your switch lights, and then you have your panel lights. Just a couple clicks, because we're about to fly through a cloud, so it's going to get a little dark in here. Nice. All right, we're going to do ourselves some nasty cloud penetration here. Time for some instrument flying, my favorite. And we're basically trying to get over this pretty large mountain, which is basically directly in our way here. What we really should do is take it safe and basically skirt around that island so we don't get any surprises as far as, oh no, walk out kind of a things. Because again, that'd be pretty embarrassing sort of a thing. The mountain range here, by the way, is significantly tall, and you'll see exactly what I mean once we get to it. Of course, given the weather here, you're going, let's hope that there's no mountains waiting for us to get smacked into here. Because that could be problematic, to say the least. I'm actually going to increase my climb rate just a teeny tiny bit. Looks like I have a little bit more energy than I expected I had, so I'm just going to take advantage of it. Again, when I think of South America, I always think of these, big puffy clouds, slightly humid. But again, there are so many different places in South America that you could visit, that this particular one is just one of many different spots that you can actually see. So this particular spot, like I said, is actually fairly cold up here. And I wouldn't be surprised if we actually run into a little tiny bit of icing, even though it is the middle of the fall here. We'll flip on our pitot heat just in case, and we should be pretty much good to go. Again, when you're doing any sort of cloud penetration, you want to spend as little time in the clouds as possible because, again, the run of really, really bad bumping and from turbulence and everything else that comes along with it. All right, let's go ahead and set our mixture. Setting the mixture in this aircraft is very straightforward. You can either press the auto mixture button or you can do it the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way. Here's my EGT gauge. I'm going to go ahead and pull the mixture back a couple notches. And the EGT usually comes up. But the nice people in Carenado were nice enough to actually program it so this is basically held automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and press the auto mixture button. Notice the needle did not wiggle, which is a good sign. It just means everything's working. One thing I am noticing, though, is I'm starting to get close to a stall. I'm going to go ahead and bring the nose down a tiny bit here. Now we're completely inside of this cloud. We're just going to continue climbing. I'm going to go ahead and get myself a little bit of speed there. Yeah, there's no reason why we need to climb that fast if we don't have to. And there is a gigantic mountain right here. I know you can't see it, but you gotta believe me. We need to get to a minimum altitude of a little over 1,600 meters, which if you multiply that by 3, we're going to be getting there pretty darn soon. Go ahead and take a look at the aircraft. We're not picking up any ice yet, which is good news. Again, we don't have to worry about those. I love the fact the landing gear just kind of like sit inside the hull. I also appreciate the fact we have a stabilator as opposed to an elevator, just mixing things up and making them kind of exciting for us. All right, checking my power here. It looks like that looks pretty good. RPM's looking pretty good. Airspeed's looking pretty good. And we're crossing right over the top of this mountain here. Yeah, it's going to get kind of messy. Again, this is real world weather, so we're doing this for real right now. I think it's really struggling to get that climb in there, so we must have either run into a really nasty microburst, or we're starting to pick up ice that's not actually shown visibly in the model, but that's all right. It always turns out okay. Let's see what the local temperature is, actually. I'm kind of curious. Shut that button off real fast. Interesting. So live weather. We can go to clear skies real quick. Watch this. Boom. Haha. Remember those mountains I said that we were just traveling over just a moment ago? I'm just curious to see if my airspeed picks back up after I flip it on. Okay, so we actually were pretty darn close to smacking into that mountain, which is exactly what I expected to do. But at the very least, you get kind of a good look at that like that. All right, let's flip back to live. I trust myself. Hey, we made it clear of the clouds. Lovely. Yes. Of course, what do we have to do to sacrifice that? We had to lose all sorts of climb speed. Go ahead and give myself a little mixture adjustment here. Look at how far back the mixture level is in order to keep this up. Again, this is something that I think Carenado decided to do with the auto mixture here. Otherwise, this needle would indicate things as I adjust my mixture control here. So again, I'm just going to use the automatic button, and we are clear of the clouds. This is wonderful news. I love it when this happens. And I always make the comment, this is why we fly. I'm looking out the window right now. Yeah, this is why we fly. I'm actually going to go ahead and flip on my regular strobe lights here, which are going to be my little flashy flashes on the wingtips, just to kind of let everybody know. I'll flick on my recog light as well. Again, so we have the little yellow, and you can just make out the green right there. And we also probably have the red light on that side, which we do. All right, we're going to continue to climb. Again, we're trying to get out of this nastiness. Now that we can see sunshine, I'm not as paranoid with the big nasty ice. Looks like we did pick up quite a bit of ice, actually, when we were doing that climb. That was the reason why we were losing so much performance. All right, I'm going to continue climbing myself up here. Then I'll do a little bit of editing magic as we basically zip across this really, really scary mountain range that's literally right below us. And we see if we can get some better weather when we get to Carenado, which is going to be pretty much about 20 nautical miles away. But we do want to get this thing all set up for cruise once we get up there. Notice, by the way, I'm still making almost 26 inches of mercury, and I'm still at 2,500 RPM. So this aircraft has pretty good performance. Your best performance altitude for this particular aircraft is going to be right around 7,000 to 8,000 feet, depending on local temperature. Again, it's a pretty cold day today, so and again, you're not going to have too much trouble with that. Unfortunately for us, and maybe this is, there it is. Let's see how we're actually doing here. Not bad, not bad. We're actually a little bit above freezing here, so I'm not as scared about that as I thought I was. Cool, excellent. So again, when we do our calculations. One neat thing, by the way, you'll like this, is if you want to find the true airspeed in this aircraft, if you actually look at your altitude, your airspeed, or altitude, I can't talk today, your actual temperature, you can see just about, let's see, 0, 5, 10, about, let's say 12 degrees Celsius. We can actually take this knob and line up our pressure altitude against our temperature. So if we were at 0, for example, and we're at 4,000 feet, we could set it up so it goes 0, 4,000, and it would read us the true airspeed right along the bottom. Apparently we're climbing too steeply again. I'm putting it back down to 500. So in this case, we're going to be at 7,500 feet, so I'll wheel this thing until we get to 7,500 feet. 7,000 is going to be right about there, and we're going to put it opposite the 5 degrees, so one more click, and ta-da! Now we can measure our true airspeed once, of course, we get enough airspeed underneath us that we can actually get into this region. So with our true airspeed, of course, you can accurately measure everything else. I think I measured up my time of day here. No, that's accurate. So unfortunately, I must have bopped the thing that changed the time. So it's actually a good time to go ahead and flip my fuel tank. So we're going to switch to the left side because we are on the left side of that gauge. And again, I think our time was a little bit earlier. Let's go fix that real quick. Just while I'm at it, right? Let's assume it's right there. Ta-da! All fixed. So again, left side with the minute hand, left tank, right side, right tank. All right, we're getting to my cruise altitude. I'm going to reach over and press the Alt button as soon as we hit the cruise altitude. This is super duper simple. You just mash it and the thing sort of works itself out. Again, there's no magical pre-selecting of anything here. You just kind of push the buttons when you need them, which is a little old-fashioned, but it's also the way I like it. All right, nose coming down. You get a little bit of lightness in the seat. And now we're going to go ahead and set our aircraft up for our cruise. Now, in the old days, when you pull one of these down, take a look at this. All of your cruise settings are listed right here. Ha-ha! So let's see, we are at 7,500 feet or so. We're at full throttle, so we actually can't make maximum power here, which is kind of a bummer. But we can, however, make power over here. So let's see here, at 2,200 and 23.6, that's not too bad. 21.6 and 2,500 RPM gets us pretty decent. That's going to be pretty solid. Again, it gives us our warning as far as what our mixture should be. I'll take a look real quickly. I'm on constant speed. You're going to have to add this for every 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so we're looking for full throttle. Actually, not quite full throttle. We're looking for 21.6, or if we wish to reduce the RPM, we could leave it at full throttle. So let's go ahead and bop the RPM down and leave it at full throttle. Interestingly enough, though, I'm taking a look at my manifold pressure gauge, and I'm still pushing about 24 inches, which is actually pretty impressive. So let's go ahead and reduce my RPM here. They said full throttle and 2,200 RPM. I'm going to go ahead and gently reduce it. Again, the world's teeny tiniest touch is all you need on that particular control. If you're looking for doing this manually, it's going to be the blue lever right there. Right there. Delightful. 2,200 in full throttle is what they told us to use. Set our mixture one more time. Again, kind of weird that this gauge doesn't work, which tells me it's like an auto mixture control or something, because this is doing no damage to the aircraft at all when I'm doing that. Okay, and now we are on the cruise phase. So let's go ahead and clean up the weather a little bit, because there's really beautiful things below us, and I'd love to take a look at them. Choo! Oh, man, that weather just changes like in a moment's notice in this part of the world. But now I did want to take a good look at Chile here as we kind of come crooning around here. Just imagine how few people in existence have walked along these mountain ridges. Like, it hurts my brain to even imagine that for a second. I'm not going to lie, this terrain reminds me a lot of Alaska, or even like, the fjords of Norway or something along those lines. Just taking a look at, again, you can imagine just people coming down here in their little boats, coming on little vacations and not seeing anything electronic or getting pretty much anything for very, very long periods of time. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and skip this part of the trip by using a little bit of time acceleration. 1, 2, 3. And we'll see when we get a little closer to a top of descent. All right, this is a pretty good time to go ahead and begin our descending process here. We're going to be heading down, oh my god, it's Melimoyo Airport, and this is a Sierra Charlie Oscar. So again, we're doing some cloud penetration here, and I know that there's a very, very, very dangerous mountain range literally right below us right now, so we have to be very cautious with this. So descending on this aircraft is super simple. If we want to do it by hand, we just grab the control and go ahead and do it. First thing I always like to do is I like to reduce my manifold pressure by about 3 inches. So I'm going to come down to 22 inches of mercury right there, which you can see I've got marked neatly. Make sure my mixture is set correctly. My propeller control I'm not going to even touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut off altitude mode by clicking it once, press vertical speed, and go ahead and dial this to, usually we do about 500 feet per minute. In my case, I'm going to do 1,000 feet per minute, which is going to get me going down pretty darn quick. Obviously, you don't want to do this too often because it's going to be air popping territory. One thing you do want to do, though, is when you are descending, try to keep your manifold pressure greater than 15 inches in order to go ahead and conserve your engine a little bit to prevent it from what they'll always say is shock cooling. Modern FADEC engines, shock cooling isn't a thing, but again, in classic engines, it's still a pretty common concern. All right, I'm going to go ahead and actually reduce my power a little bit more because we're coming just a little bit too steeply here. So I'm going to come down to 15 inches is the absolute minimum. Now, as you descend, you're going to have to be adjusting your mixture the whole way down in order to make sure your mixture is set correctly for your landing. So let's go ahead and check out the weather there at our destination. I'm going to pop this sucker open real quickly. We'll see who's closest to us, like I said. Now, you were wondering why I couldn't pronounce that properly. I feel it's kind of sad. We got a traffic. We can go ahead and use this to kind of determine what's nearby, but unfortunately, that's not going to give us much information as far as things like wind goes. Luckily for us, we programmed the wind ourselves, so we can come down here and see that the wind is coming from the west at a speed of 4 knots, which is fine. That just means we're going to be landing on runway 30. Not too bad, not too bad. All right, go ahead and zip down here, kind of taking a quick look. Just doing our general stuff. We can see that I've got about 15 minutes before I need to switch my fuel tanks again. Good time to take a look at my fuel gauges. Whenever you land this thing, obviously, you want to make sure you're on your fullest fuel tank. Like I said, I'm doing a very aggressive descent here because we have to get by these mountains and basically around the corner in order to land this thing. Normally, what you would do is, like I said, about 500 feet per minute is considered the maximum. You don't want to pass that because, again, people's ears are going to get very, very grumpy at you very, very quickly. All right, got to kind of walk through everything. Apparently, I have my emergency vacuum pump, which is a nice feature to have. Let's go ahead and take a look at my before landing checklist here. I'm sure it's going to tell us to turn the fuel pump back on. Seat back set, fasten safety belt, electric fuel pump is going to be on. I'm just going to flip that on now. Mixture is rich. We're not there yet. Propeller set. Gear down in the green arc. Let's see the green arc. Anything in green is considered good. So it looks like our limit is going to be 145 knots. So we can put the gear down now if we wanted. Flaps are going to be in the white arc. That's for us is actually very fast, or very slow, I should say, about 108 knots. And our air conditioner should be set off. What a shame. Like I said, it's only, what do we got right now for temperature? It's about 42 degrees. I don't think I'd leave the air conditioner off. On, I should say. Okay, So now we're going to set ourselves up for a landing here. So this is kind of interesting because the airport we're landing at, I'll go ahead and show you, it's going to be this little thing right here. And the runway we're interested in is actually going to be this runway here. Oh my God, look at this. This is so beautiful. Ah, it hurts. It hurts, I'm sorry. All right, so we're going to be landing right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do a little sweetie swoop thing here. Come on down. Normally we could do ourselves a power off spiral descent or something like that. What I'm going to do is come out. I'm going to take a left, but we can't do that. You're probably saying, oh, wait a minute, why can't you? Oh, there's a mountain in the way. So in this particular case, without actually knowing what the official traffic pattern is for this airport, I'm going to go ahead and take a right traffic pattern because taking a look here, this looks like something, yeah, it's probably going to be below us, but you probably don't want to take that chance if you don't have to. Again, our local altitude is probably about 0, and we're still up here probably about 3,000 feet, about 4,000 feet. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and pop off the automatic pilot. Again, I'm going to go ahead and dip the nose down a little bit, as long as we don't go dipping too far into the yellow. So, excuse me, passengers, we're doing ourselves an emergency descent for the safety purposes. Your ears may explode. But again, these kind of things happen all the time. Not really. Good planning means they won't. We should have come down the valley. I'm just trying to save some time, because I know you folks have busy days. All right, as long as we stay in the yellow arc, technically I can't hurt the plane, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. All right, we're going to do exactly like I said. We're basically going to kind of come out a little bit, bring myself a little teeny tiny bit to the left, come out to sea. Again, I expect the traffic pattern altitude to be right around 1,000 feet. All right. When you're using this aircraft, by the way, it requires a lot of rudder. I don't know what it is about this plane. All right. Fairly high G turn for a plane like this. And that should get us roughly on a right traffic pattern if my math was close. Not bad. These pilot sensors would never in 1,000 million years fly with me again, but I did get myself into a right traffic pattern. All right. We're going to go ahead and start slowing the aircraft down. Pretty straightforward. We're near the traffic pattern. Now, basically, the moment you get yourself into the green arc, you want to go ahead and drop the landing gear as early as you can. This is also going to give you the ability of kind of slowing the aircraft down. We're just going to do what we normally do. We're going to hold the nose up just a little bit, about 1,200 feet. Yeah, you can see why I chose to go with the right traffic pattern instead of the left. Nose up, we were beaming the numbers. I'm going to go ahead and put my first notch of flaps down, and I'm going to start descending. I'm looking for about a 45-degree angle off the end of the runway. It's coming pretty close. Approach speed on this is going to be 70 knots. There's about 80. Going to go ahead and pop my second notch of flaps down now. Back out the window. We're looking for that 45-degree point. That's going to be right about there. Go ahead and take a nice gentle turn. Keep your speed about, like I said, you're looking for about 70 knots here. Otherwise, you're going to use a lot of runway. You can always slip the plane a little bit if you're coming in too fast. All right, we're probably going to have to turn right to final here because I'm so tight. Yeah, we're going to have to turn right to final. Big scary mountain. Come off to final. There's our base leg. And we're going to come out just a little tiny bit more. All right, we're going to swing ourselves to final. Go ahead and put that last notch of flaps down. We're going to do a Gumpel's checks. Gas should be on the fullest tank. The fuel pump should be turned on. Landing gear on. You should have 3 green lights. You should be at flaps 3. All right, line ourselves up. Easy on the rudder. Speed should be right around 70 knots. All right, looking pretty good. We got a 4-knot headwind. It's actually a crosswind. It's not a true headwind. Getting a little slow, but that's okay. Go ahead and push your control all the way forward. Make sure that your red handle, which is your mixture control. Again, I'll Gumpel's right time. Gas, undercarriage, mixture, propeller, flaps, lights, speed. Everything is looking good. Going a little slow here. I'm going to go ahead and increase it. I notice that my nose is getting a little high. Give it just a little bit. Yeah, it's not the most responsive airplane out there. You can see this is not going to be a very safe landing here. Go ahead and hold the nose down. Unfortunately, somebody decided to put a tree in the middle of the runway. I don't know what the deal with that was. But I'm just going to slide the plane a little bit here. This is kind of a dangerous landing. Nice and steep. All right, get by that tree. Again, I'm just skidding the plane here. You wouldn't normally have to do this, but we have to because this stupid tree has kind of blocked my approach. All right. Got to give ourselves a little bit more distance. And we are down. Nice. Probably the most dangerous landing I've ever made, but again, you wouldn't normally want to be landing in the direction where there's a bunch of trees that are going to be blocking your view. Unfortunately, the prevailing winds, like I said, kind of messed us up a little bit there. All right, we're on the ground. Success. Come swing around here and kind of head over to the little parking area. Obviously, you can tell by the parking area that not a crazy amount of traffic. It would have been much safer to land in this direction, but again, the wind was kind of against us there, so we kind of had to make do with what we had. All right, come swing us down this way. You can see the couple marshals kind of give me a really, really dirty look. Sorry. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I was just looking for an opportunity to kind of show you some different places with different kinds of planes. This is a pretty neat plane. Again, it's just a little bit faster than stuff like it. It's kind of like a Cessna 172, all kind of like turbocharged and ready to rock. Enjoy.